I mentioned earlier in the show that a lot of people think fall is the best time for pasture spraying. But here's the number one thing that I worry about: frost. Now obviously it depends on where you're at in the United States, but for us, we farm in South Dakota, and very often we will get frost sometime in September, and it could even happen in early September. The reason why I worry about this is what frost does is it kills off a lot of the top growth, or maybe even all the top growth on a plant. So if you spray and the very next day or two you get this frost, well, your herbicide may not have moved down into the growing points that could be below ground on a perennial weed or even a biennial weed. So the number one thing that I wanted to stress today to you is make sure you get your fall spraying done, preferably 1 to 2 weeks before your first hard-killing frost.
Well, timing is really important, Brian, but then you've got to think about what you've got out there for weeds and choosing the right product. I hear a lot of issues that farmers and ranchers have. Well, I sprayed my pasture, but I missed this weed or I missed that weed, and there are quite a few choices now. I remember when we were growing up, Brian, it was, well, do I use 2,4-D or do I use dicamba? Then Tordon, and it's like, oh, okay, we got a few choices, but I know I can't use Tordon right close to water or something like that, so I'm back to 2,4-D and dicamba. Well, now we've got lots of things with Milestone, with Ally or Cimarron.
Well, wait. Let's start with one at a time. So Darren mentioned Milestone. Milestone is the very best product there is for thistles. So if you say, hey, my problem is thistle, I want Milestone.
But some people say, I used Milestone, it didn't kill the thistles. Guess what? What rate did you use on the Milestone?
With Milestone, the rate we want you using, if you've got thistle patches out there or lots of thistles, 7 ounces. Use the full rate. Yes, it's going to cost some money, but it's going to leave a tremendous amount of residual. It's not going to leave as much residual as Tordon, but it is going to leave lots of residual. You'll see that residual for years on your thistles. With Tordon, that actually can have residual for maybe 5 to 10 years. It's crazy how much residual Tordon can have. Tordon was always the product we recommended for thistle in pasture. Now it's a little step below Milestone, but it's still a really good product. And Tordon has good activity on a number of other weeds like leafy spurge and volunteer trees.
Well, one, if you don't want any residual that farmers and ranchers will choose, is Remedy. It's a good product, especially if you've got a little brush out in the field as well, or the pasture, because Remedy can kill some of those types of plants, those woody species, but it doesn't leave a soil residual. So if you say, you know, this is a pasture that may go to crop ground in a year or two, that would be a good option that you may consider.
Speaking of woody species, a lot of people will pick chaparral. That's a combination of Milestone and Ally. Now, Ally is one of those old SU or sulfonylurea herbicides, so it's in that same chemical family as the ALS products. So if you have ALS resistant weeds, it's not going to control those. But Ally does have a lot of residual, so together with Milestone in chaparral, you've got a product that's got lots of residual, really good on thistles and real good on brush.
Now, what we'll see many times is to cheapen up some of those more expensive, longer lasting products like a Milestone or a Tordon. There'll be premixes available with a certain type of 2,4-D. Now, there's some differences in the 2,4-Ds that you can get between Amines and Esters and the new 2,4-D choline.
So Darren's talking about Freelex, and one of my saddest days of this year was when Corteva pulled Freelex from the market. And the reason why they did that, and I can't say they pulled it entirely from the market, but they pulled it from much of where we farm, and we can't use it now in our pastures. And they did this entirely because some people were using that product off-label on enlist crops. So anyway, we are certainly hoping and begging Corteva to bring Freelex back. It is 2,4-D like you've never seen before without all the volatility and drift. Now, one other product that I did want to mention today, if you've liked 2,4-D in the past, you will really like Distinct. Distinct also doesn't have lots of residual, it's got a little bit, but Distinct is the same thing as Status, only it doesn't have the corn safener, and it's about 1/3 the price. You can go with 6 ounces of Distinct, that's the same or equivalent as 7.5 ounces of Status. It's a tremendous product, one of the best herbicides we've ever seen. Yes, it's not as good on perennials as what Milestone or Tordon will be, but on everything else, it is lights out.
Well, there are lots of choices for spraying weeds in the fall in your pasture. We just encourage you to get out at least a couple of weeks ahead of your first frost to get the best activity.
One of the weeds you may see out in your pasture is our Weed of the Week. Can you identify this week's weed?